friends with monsters. They follow me around. They help me.
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Manchester, UK-based jazz singer and writer Nishla Smith. We had a good talk about her life and music. Her new 2021 CD, Friends with Monsters, is a great one. She is driven by a desire to tell stories, and her unique musical sensibility, along with this preoccupation with narrative, is always going through her diverse array of projects, and it makes her a singer that you should hear more of. Enjoy this story. Thank you for taking a minute out. I really appreciate it.
No worries. I really appreciate the request. It's always great to chat to people about what the music you're making. So.
Absolutely. So, Friends with Monsters, I know that all over the world everybody's dealing with COVID and we're at different stages right now, but having a new album out with, there's been such a long absence from live shows and things have been in disarray. What does it mean to you to have an album coming out now with prospects of live shows and things getting a little better?
It felt like the right time to put it out there. I mean, we recorded the album in February 2020, so just before everything kind of stopped. The world kind of stopped. And so it has felt like a bit of a slow process going from then till not releasing until the following November. I think it was the right thing to do because it did mean, we did just finish an album tour, so we managed to tour the UK with the album, which was really exciting and fun. I'm really glad we got to do that. And it also meant, I think during 2020, I had a lot of spare time, as a lot of musicians did, I guess, or a lot of non-working time. And I actually had the time to really design and think about the music videos that I ended up making for the album. I don't know if you've seen any of them, but there's one that has a huge array of props and costumes, and I made all of those by hand over 2020 while I was stuck at home. So there were good things about waiting as well.
Yeah, those were wonderful, very elaborate, colorful. They were beautiful, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and, so how's the UK doing right now? How's everything in your neck of the woods?
It's a strange time. I mean, I think the last few months have seemed closer to normal, but now again with this new variant and the way things are, I think it feels a little bit doom and gloomy again. But, I guess we'll just have to see. I mean, we have been having live shows and things like that over the last few months. We've just changed regulations. So at the moment, live shows are still happening, but the new masking rules and things are coming back in, which, is kind of fine. And I guess we'll just have to see. So
Friends with Monsters, talk to me a little bit about what you're hoping the audience gets from the message that you're putting out through this music.
I think a lot of people draw their own conclusions, and I've had people come up to me after the shows and be like, "Oh, is this song about this or that?" And I like that. I like when people kind of can pull their own meaning from the lyrics. I try and keep the lyrics in my songs sort of specific enough for me to know what I'm talking about, but have a little bit of kind of room for interpretation. But the album itself generally is set over one night, so it starts at twilight and ends at dawn. And I struggle to sleep. And so it's kind of about my struggle with insomnia and anxiety. But then, for me, each section of the night has a different sort of character, and I tried to bring that in, a melancholy feeling in the twilight hour, and then the sort of darkness of midnight. And then at 3 a.m., I kind of went in a playful direction, almost like a bit of a fantasy. And then with dawn, it's that sense of relief of the day beginning again. And I wrote... So, for anyone who hasn't heard the album, there are 4 interludes called Twilight, Midnight, 3 a.m. and Dawn, and they're each duos for me and one member of my band. And I tried to capture those different sort of feelings of the stages of the night in those interludes.
The one thing, too, before we kind of depart this COVID talk, is that it gave everyone in lockdown a time to be reflective. What did you learn about yourself that maybe you didn't know before that's going to make you stronger as you reemerge and promote this album and play live shows?
I learned that I can't be creative under pressure. That's one thing for sure. Because I thought when the lockdown happened, I was like, oh, I'm going to write so much music. And I think the stresses of this whole year and this whole situation and the pressure I maybe put on myself, it just didn't pan out that way. I just found it really hard to, be like, okay, now I'm going to do this or do that creative task. That was one thing. And I think the other thing I really learned was how much joy and energy I get from also working with other people and absorbing other people's work, So I do a lot of cross-disciplinary stuff. I work with dancers and visual artists, and I think that collaboration and that sense of, you know, someone having an idea and then it being something different to what you would have thought of, and then kind of expanding from there and picking up those threads, I realized how much I missed that and how, like, exciting and important that is. I think it's something that feeds into jazz generally, because there is that sense of, like, listening to what other people are doing and reacting in the moment. Every time I've been on stage this year, I've been, like, remembering how lucky I am to be in those situations with those other artists, and, you know, paying attention to those spontaneous and, like, magical moments of creation.
Yeah. How did this music journey begin for you? How did it all begin? Your fascination, influences, childhood, that kind of thing?
I grew up listening to jazz standards, and also sort of 60s and 70s sort of folky pop. My parents, like, are both kind of, like, huge music listeners, and they have very eclectic tastes. And so I would just take the CDs I liked into my room and listen to them. And those ones tended to be, I had, like, a Nat King Cole vocal album, you know, Ella Fitzgerald, and then, like, Carly Simon and Carole King, Billie Holiday, all sorts of different artists, but I was always drawn to singers. And I think I love stories and I love words, and so I listened to a lot of that. So by the time I kind of left home, I already knew a lot of jazz standards. I just didn't really understand how the genres fit together, you know what I mean? And then I actually did an undergrad degree in classical singing. My grandmother was an opera singer. She kind of led me down that path a little bit. But then as I finished that, I kind of realized it wasn't quite where I fit. And I actually got a job in Melbourne. I'm Australian, I don't know if you can tell by the accent. I got a job singing jazz standards in a bar, and it started from there. Then I started to meet people and learn a lot by working with people better than me. I moved to Germany, and I met some amazing musicians there and played in different ensembles. And then I came to Manchester in 2017, and immediately, like, the jazz scene here was so warm and welcoming, and I just fell into it and, like, haven't kind of looked up since. I've just been kind of going along, doing more and more things.
You know, one of the greatest teaching tools for all of us, or learning moments, is seeing live shows. What was the first live show you saw that made you think, I would love to be up there doing that someday?
Oh, God, that's a hard one. It would have been when I was really little. My mum used to take me to the musicals, you know, even just the sort of Amdram performances or local shows. But I remember being like 5 or 6 and seeing a musical and being like, I want to do that. I want to be on stage and singing. But I think it took a while before that sort of matured into understanding what kind of artist I wanted to be. I think, like, one of the most inspirational performance experiences I've ever had. Well, I saw Cecile McLaren-Savant just a few weeks ago in London for the London Jazz Festival, and I also saw her last time she came out in 2019. And both of those times I've just been like, you know, when you have those experiences where you're like, wow, this person is just such an incredible artist and such an inspiration. Yeah, those performances really stick out in my mind.
I've only ever heard that about her. You know, when she performs, people are like, there's just certain people where they're like, you got to see Mick Jagger live, or you got to see Bruce Springsteen live, or, you know, there's certain things that you have to catch. And I always hear with her, there's this magic that you can't quite put your finger on. Like, you can take a picture of the sunset, but no one will understand unless you're right there.
Exactly. I found myself sitting in the audience thinking, oh my God, I wish this person was here and this person was here so they could experience how incredible this is, because, yeah, she just brings things to life. She just brings the meaning out of songs in, like, so many ways, both with her voice and with her interpretation of the lyrics and just everything, yeah.
If you could go back in time, you can get into a time machine and see a show from anybody in history.
Yeah.
Who would you go see?
I'd go see Nina Simone.
Right on.
Definitely. Yeah, I would. I watch a lot of, like, the clips on YouTube of her performing live. I often think to myself, like, I think if you were in that audience, the feelings you would be feeling. I mean, I'm feeling them watching it on YouTube, you know, 30, 40 years later. And I think being in that room and hearing that sort of raw passion and energy, that would be my dream.
So, you know, every day you wake up, you have the chance to create and to, you know, get your music out there. What's the greatest part of being a professional musician for you?
I think being able to make things and make things that you feel are good. And that that will mean different things to different artists. I think there's something very positive about creating something that you feel, is a net sense is kind of a good thing. But I think that ultimate thing for me, it has to come back to that idea of collaboration, like the communication and the kind of interaction you can have with other artists, and also with your audience. When you see someone feeling something because of what you're doing, or someone comes up and tells you afterwards that they really connected to a song or something like that, I think that's really exciting and rewarding.
You've already talked about doing some shows the last few months, but I think overall, what do you hope the audience and musicians realize about the long time that we didn't have live music now that we are returning?
Yeah, I hope people realize how much of a wonderful thing live music is, and how much we were missing from our lives when we couldn't go and experience it. Because, like you were saying, there's something about being in the room that is so different to the experience of listening to recorded music, sharing something with the artists on stage. I really hope that people remember that and support the artists that they like, their local artists, and also bigger touring artists. Yeah, I've been to a few shows lately where I've just felt so emotional to be back in the room listening to people play, and I think that's really powerful.
Everyone has a perception of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you live your life. You have a perception of you. Who do you think you are?
Yeah. Oh, that's a deep question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, lately I've been thinking that maybe I need to grow up a bit. Like, maybe I'm a bit of a child in some ways. I mean, a person who balances the light and dark. I think I'm a playful person. I hope that comes across in my music. But yeah, I hope that I'm a person who is a good friend and makes people feel that I'm helping them in some way, whether that's through my music or just sort of my personal actions.
Beautiful. Nishla, thank you for taking some time out for Neon Jazz today. Good luck with everything as we move forward.
Thanks so much, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Australia, England, America, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Nishla for her time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.